Hey y'all, welcome to Tutor Bros, and in this video we're looking at area of a parallelogram. So the first thing we got to do is always know the formula for area of a parallelogram. So remember y'all, A is equal to base times height. So what we're looking at as this is the base. Let me give you all something extra. Base, and then we can say times height. So then we'll say this is height, and this is base. So the problem is with this one, as you can see, they're giving us a bunch of numbers, but the important thing to see here is that we're given base, but we're not given height. So I'm going to go ahead and label this x. Because remember, anytime we don't know anything, we can just go ahead and say that x can represent it as a variable. I could have used h, but I mean, for the most part, most people use x. So I'm just going to go ahead and stick with x for now. Now they give us this weird looking object, so what they ended up actually giving us is we're going to be looking at this right triangle that you can see here. So we're given this right triangle here, and this is going to help us determine the height of the object. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is redraw just that little piece again. So we're looking here, so we know that this is 9 feet. Now I don't know this full complete side. I don't have that, but it may not be necessarily to know that. So depending on the information they give us is depending on the trig identity or the trig function that we'll be using specifically. So remember, this is exactly what I want. So I have an angle and I have a side, a missing side, and then I have another side. Well, this other side turns out to be the hypotenuse. And we can always tell because of this right forming triangle that it forms with here. In the original problem, it had the little right angle to signify that piece was a right triangle. So in the hypotenuse, so we're given the hypotenuse there, and then now knowing this angle, so this was telling us 45 degrees. So what we can see is, okay, we have hypotenuse, and we have the opposite side of that angle, because remember, we're looking across from it. It's the one that's across from it. So what we could say now is, well, we know the formula. Sine of x is equal to opposite over hypotenuse, which that's one of the sayings. There's plenty of ways to rewrite this. In other videos, I'll rewrite them in different forms, but the general idea is that it's the opposite side across divided by the hypotenuse. So in this case, we know that, well, the angle is sine. This is the angle. So in this case, we know that this is 45 degrees. I'm going to replace that actually so I don't get anybody confused. So this is the degree here that we have. So sine of 45 is equal to, well, we know the missing variable is an x, and then we have a 9 here. So what we're going to go ahead and see is we want to go ahead and just solve for x. So we want to solve now. So what we'll go ahead and do is multiply by 9 onto both sides. Remember, whatever you do to one, you have to do to the other. So solve for x. So I'm going to go ahead and do is multiply here by 9, multiply here by 9. So what this actually looks like is that we have 9 times sine of 45 degrees is equal to x over 9 times 9. And remember, there is a division by 1 in case you want to go ahead and see that. So it is like you can't place the 1 underneath it. I know most people actually like seeing that. So what most people are going to tell you is that these just go ahead and cancel out. But if you need to multiply it out, you may multiply it out, which would give you 9x over 9. We know that the final solution to that would just be x. So I'm just going through extra little steps maybe so you can kind of see what's going on extra if you need that. So I have x and then sine of 45. All this just stays the same. I didn't do anything to that other than multiply by 9. So we'll check what that is in the calculator. So we'll say 6.4. On the original directions, it said around 10 nearest 10th. Squiggly x. Alright, but we are not done. All that was just to get our missing x, to go ahead and solve for x. So now we have to actually just put it back in the formula, because our x was our h. So now what we know is that this is 6.4 because that was the height, and then we know the base, which turns out to be 28. So we'll go ahead and do 28 times 6.4, which turns out to be 179.2. Works out just fine for us. And remember, this is feet squared. This is the unit that they're going to be using. So that's how you solve for area when they're missing a variable, especially when you're missing h like that, the height. So some other later videos, I'll be doing different shapes and different missing variables in case if that pops out. But yeah, if you have any suggestions or anything, go ahead and leave the comments. Message me on my email. We can go ahead and see how to make this better, or if you have problems, you can go ahead and email me. That way we can go ahead and get y'all some answers. Thanks a lot.